Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. Memorial Day weekend. Some of us finish up school this week, which there's always the debate. Are the teachers more excited or the kids? But maybe. Summer is just about here. We just have to finish out strong. But boys and girls, we need to look at Hezekiah this morning in 2 Kings chapter 19. We've been with Hezekiah for a few weeks now. And so Isaiah had given him a promise. He said, don't fear. God's going to take care of it. And we had looked at Hezekiah and how when Hezekiah is in trouble, he runs to God. And the focus is on God and not himself. We studied how Hezekiah obeyed and his people obeyed, even when they were taunted and made fun of. So let's wrap this story up, boys and girls. There's more about Hezekiah, but at least this part of his life we're going to wrap up with the king of Assyria. In verse number 20, then Isaiah the son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, that which thou hast prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, I have heard. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning him. The virgin, the daughter of Zion, hath despised thee, and laughed thee to scorn. The daughter of Jerusalem hath shaken her head at thee. Verse 22, Whom hast thou reproached and blasphemed, and against whom hast thou exalted thy voice, and lifted up thine eyes on high, even against the Holy One of Israel? So Isaiah sends back a message to Hezekiah, and he says, God has heard you. And God, who is the Holy One of Israel, is the one who's been blasphemed. And God will take care of this. This will not slip by. Verse 23, By thy messengers thou hast reproached the Lord, and hast said, With the multitude of my chariots I am come up to the height of the mountains, and to the sides of Lebanon, and will cut down the tall cedar trees thereof, and the choice fir trees thereof, and I will enter into the lodgings of his borders, and into the forest of his Carmel. Boys and girls, King Sennacherib, that's the name of the mountain, it's capitalized, not the food. So Isaiah is sending back the message to Hezekiah. That's basically going to be a message that gets delivered to Hezekiah, or to, wow, all these names floating in my head, to Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. Basically says, you have messed with the wrong person. You have messed with God. You say you're going to do all of these things. You say you're going to go into the border. You say, but that's not going to happen. Boys and girls, it tells us in here that not even an arrow of Sennacherib's was going to get near Jerusalem, or was not going to be fired in Jerusalem, that he would never make it there either, even though that's his intent to take the city of Jerusalem. By his messengers, Sennacherib had reproached the Lord, and the Lord said to the king of Assyria, would that the king of Assyria would not set foot in Jerusalem. Let's look at verse 32. Therefore, thus saith the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow there, nor come before it with shield, nor cast a bank against it. God said he's not going to get here. He's not going to be able to have a battle here. He will not fight here. Verse 33, By the way that he came, by the same shall he return, and shall not come into this city, saith the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it, for mine own sake and for my servant David's sake. God says, I'm going to protect Jerusalem for my sake and for the promise that I made to David. Sennacherib's not going to get here. The nation of Israel's not going to overtake it. Verse 35, And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. Boys and girls, the angel of the Lord comes in and kills 185,000 Assyrians in one night. Wake up the next morning and it's just 185,000 dead corpses. Boys and girls, Hezekiah didn't even have to go out and fight to kill those people. The angel of the Lord did it. God takes care of his people and God keeps his promises. Well, Sennacherib wasn't one of those who died, but we did have the promise that he would. Verse 36, so Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt at Nineveh, just like God had said would happen. He would go back home. Verse 37, and it came to pass as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that it is a tongue twister kind of day, guys. Adrammelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and his another son reigned in his stead. Boys and girls, it came to be just like God said. God protected his people. God fulfilled the prophecy of Sennacherib returning back home and then getting killed by the sword. After all Sennacherib saw, he sees those 185,000 corpses. He sees what God has done, and yet he still rejects God. He goes back to Nineveh. He still worships a false god, and God says, that's it. You are done. Just as God had prophesied. Everything he said came true. God slew all of those men without the single help of a man. Our God is so powerful. Our God is a living God. We see over and over in the life of Hezekiah as he talks about the attributes of God, how powerful our God is. Boys and girls, throughout this week, I hope you'll remember from Hezekiah's life the importance of a good reputation, being obedient even when it's difficult, and then just the mighty power of our God. And what a great God we get to serve, and what a great God we can run to with our needs. I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend and you finish out the school year strong. See you next Sunday.